Today, we are going to save fish, and we are going to do that through the power of narrative. So I'm just going to let that hang for a few minutes before I explain it. Let me first kind of just give you a rundown of who I am, what this is all about. My name is Matthew David, and for the past 4 years now, yeah, that's about right, I have been a narrative trainer, which means I'm the guy who gets to go to all these different corporations, companies, conservation groups, global health initiatives, and basically train them how to use narrative structure to make their communication better, to make them more understood, to get their message out there, to get people to jump on board with what it is that they're doing. Basically, I'm helping people who are trying to save the world communicate better so that they can better save the world. That's kind of my goal. My overarching goal in all of this is to save the world through the power of narrative. Cheesy, I don't care. We're doing it. So, as much as I love doing that, and as much as I love those moments where I see people kind of like light up inside, like, oh my God, I get what you're trying to do. I understand how this all fits together. I get it. I love that. But the problem is I'm just not able to do enough of it. I mean, we've still got plenty of clients, plenty of like online classes, things we're doing over email, but the entire just like working one-on-one with people kind of thing, it just doesn't happen enough. So I'm hoping here on Twitch, I can kind of start doing that once again. And as a bonus for doing it on Twitch, I have found that narrative it's important to do, but it's also really difficult to do alone. Like if it's just me working with one other person, you can kind of only get so far. It's when you have a group of people all working on a narrative together, a lot of brain power kind of going into it, chugging into it, that you're able to like actually make strides forward and get to places you otherwise like would not have been able to get to. So that is kind of why I bring it to Twitch. I want you guys to help me when it comes to this entire using narrative to saving the world thing. But in order to do that, it would help if you guys were caught up on a few basic narrative concepts before we get started so that you can like better help us out. So I'm so sorry to all my listeners and viewers. I am going to have to give a brief lecture just to get you kind of caught up a little bit so that we're all kind of on the same page. Now, I'm going to try to make it as short as I possibly can. We're only going to go over like 3 main points, and I'm going to use videos. It's not just going to be me like spouting the entire time. And after that, after we get caught up in those 3 basic points, then I'm going to introduce our guest for today, and then we are going to start saving fish, and you are going to hopefully help me do just that. All right, so major concept number 1 for today is the different types of communication. For our purposes, there's only really 2 categories. There's the non-narrative category, as we call it the AAA, and category. And there's the narrative category, the ABT, and, but, therefore category. Real life kind of starts out AAA, and it's up to us using our narrative brains to convert that AAA boring nonsense into a narrative structure, ABT. Now, I could keep talking about it, or I could instead show you a video clip of South Park creators Matt Stone and Trey Parker talking about exactly this. This is kind of where we got this concept from. We have fully just stolen it from the South Park guys. We've told the South Park guys we've fully stolen it from them, and they're like, yeah, do it. Take it and run with it. So let me cue this clip up here, and here we go. Matt Stone and Trey Parker talking about AAA versus ABT.
Whole South Park writers room, one whole wall is one of these. And we've got it split up into 3 acts.
We have different colored markers just like here too. Look at.
Yep.
We have that.
And I walk around with the markers like this, and we'll go, okay, we do a show about this.
These are our writers' room.
Oh, okay, well somewhere, okay, this would be a funny scene if we had this. Each individual scene has to work as a kind of funny sketch. You don't want one scene that's just like, well, what was the point of that scene? We found out this really simple rule that maybe you guys have all heard before, but it took us a long time to learn it. But we can take these beats, which are basically the beats of your outline, and if the words "and then" belong between those beats, you're f***ed, basically. You got something pretty boring. What should happen between every beat that you've written down is either the word therefore or but, right? So what I'm saying is that you come up with an idea and it's like, okay, this happens, right? And then this happens. No. It should be this happens and therefore this happens. But this happens, therefore this happens. And that, as soon as we are able to, and literally sometimes we'll write it out to make sure we're doing it. We'll have our beats and we'll say, okay, this happened, but then this happens, and that affects this, and that does to that, and that's why you get a show that feels like, okay, this to that, to this to that, but this, here's the complication, to that. And there's so many scripts we read from new writers and things that we see.
God, I see movies.
And
you see movies that you're just watching. It's like this happened, and then this happens, and then this happens. That's when you're in a movie, just going, "What the am I watching this movie for?" It's just like this happened, and then this happened, and this happened. That's not a movie, you know. That's not a story. Like Trey said, it's those two, but because therefore, that gives you the causation between each beat, and that makes that's a story.
And that is a story. This
South Park
is another clip that I don't want to play. And that is a story. And the fun part is that basic and but therefore structure and but because therefore by structure holds just as true for an episode of South Park as it does for a scientific abstract, as it does for a business proposal, as it does for a marketing campaign, as it does for a presentation, proposal, anything. It's the same basic and but therefore structure all the way through. Now, we do have a little bit of neuroscience to back this up. There's honestly not that much neuroscience about storytelling out there, but what little there is, we've kind of mapped to this entire AAA versus ABT. So I have another little video clip about that. Let me play it from the beginning here. So once again, this is how AAA versus ABT actually affects the human brain. Here we go. It's about a minute long.
Neuroscience is beginning to shed some light on this. For example, Yuri Hassan at Princeton University uses functional MRI to study the brain activity of people watching films. One group watches films that don't tell a story. For this, they use video footage of random people at a park. There's no problem-solution dynamic at work. This is what AAA is. Here's some kids, and there's some trees, and there's a trash can, and nothing to focus on, really. With no story, two things are seen in the brain scans of viewers. Very little activity, and very little similarity in which parts of the brain are active from one person to another. The index of similarity is low, around 10 to 20%. One person is watching a car drive by, another might be watching people. Then they use footage from suspense stories. This is high narrative content, very clearly problem solution material. He's got a gun, but it's pointed at someone. Therefore, we may be about to see something bad. Not surprisingly, there's lots of brain activity, and the index of similarity is around 70%, as everyone is thinking the same thought. Will he pull the trigger? This is the power of narrative. The problem-solution dynamic activates the brains of the audience and unifies their thinking.
So what we're dealing with here is that we all have in our heads this problem-solving engine, and it's been honed to be a problem-solving engine after millions of years of evolution. It's at this kind of like calm, steady baseline state, scanning the environment, but then it sees a problem. Then it sees something it has to worry about, so it starts activating and churning away until it finds a solution. That is the basic way the brain operates, and that's what we're trying to tap into with narrative. We're trying to give context, which is kind of like this calm, steady baseline state, then present a problem, spike the brain interest, get it to pay attention, and then present a solution. And this entire pattern is kind of a journey, and this is the second point that I want to make. We want to take the audience on a journey. We want to give them a problem state that they do not want to be in, and then show them the journey of how to get to the solution state. So we've already hit two of the main concepts, AAA versus ABT, and the fact that narratives need to be a journey that you're bringing the audience along with. Let's hit point number 3, and then we'll get into saving the fish, I promise. So for point number 3, let's use this little handout. There are basically two audiences we're concerned with when it comes to narrative. There is the inner circle audience and the outer circle audience. Now, the inner circle audience, these are people in your friend group. These are people in your office. These are people in your class, in your scientific research lab. These are people who understand the context of what it is you're talking about. That's the term that's going to keep coming up again and again, context. Outer circle people do not have that context. They do not have the deep understanding about a certain subject matter that you do as part of an inner circle. So, for the inner circle, you don't need narrative. You can just and at the inner circle. Inner circle people understand the context at such a deep level that just by anding at them, they're able to instantly sort out all that information, categorize it to what's most important, what's relevant, how does this fit into the broader context. Outer circle people do not have the context to be able to do that. And that's what the ABT is all about. That's what basic narrative structure is all about. Giving them the context as early as possible so they understand why what you're saying is matters, why it's important, why it's valid, why should they care about it. We're trying to answer all those questions as soon as possible with a narrative. So I think that is about it for the lecture. Let me double check, make sure I'm not forgetting anything big. No, that is basically it. All right. Well, in that case, it is finally time to bring on my very, very, very first guest for narrative dissection. It is Karen Murchie. She is the Director of Freshwater Research at the Shedd Aquarium in Chicago. Let me just swap this over here. And Karen, are you there?
I am. Thanks for the introduction, Matthew.
You betcha, you betcha. So before we get started diving into your narrative, first off, for those in the audience who don't know what a Director of Freshwater Research is or what you do in such a position, I certainly know as a former Hollywood screenwriter. Of course, I know all about freshwater research. But for everyone else in the audience who doesn't really know what that's all about, could you give us a brief explanation, pretty please?
Yes, I oversee a team of other freshwater researchers that are focused in the Great Lakes area, saving all the aquatic biodiversity that we can. But I also run Shedd's migratory fish program, which brings us to the specific research that we're going to be talking about today.
Yes,
I was going to say, I think that we should maybe talk about a film about directors of freshwater research, like
behind the scenes, directors of freshwater research.
Exactly.
All the day-to-day drama. That'd be great. I can picture it now. Awesome. Well, also this, you said you have a specific audience in mind for the narrative we're going to be working on today. Could you tell me a little bit about them?
For sure. So actually next week, I'm going to be talking to folks up in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be an audience mix with anglers, commercial fishermen, as well as people that are just really interested in the outdoors.
Gotcha.
I do research across Illinois, Wisconsin, and Michigan on the fish that we're talking about, which are suckers. And so I want to link some of the particular aspect of a tagging and tracking study that I'm doing in that presentation.
You hear that, chat? We get to help a bunch of suckers today. That is our goal. Awesome. So before we jump into your narrative, let's do a little bit of a narrative warm-up exercise. And I did warn you about this, so you can't say this is coming out of nowhere. This is pretty simple, and it speaks to like you and your life and your journey. That's what we're really interested in for narratives, what your journey is. So I'm going to give you a prompt question, and I want you to answer that prompt question in the form of an ABT. Okay, got it. And after you do that, I'm going to give you notes. And for chat, these will be the same type of notes that I would give to anyone regardless of the subject matter. Narrative has very specific types of patterns, whether you're talking about your life story, whether you're talking about your research, whether you're talking about a movie. There's a very specific type of ebb and flow to narrative. So what I will be doing is tweaking Karen's narrative to like get it a little bit more to conform with that specific pattern. But for now, Karen, let us hear an ABT on what brought you to this career path.
Well, I have always been an outdoor kid, and I did a field course in Jamaica that made me fall in love with fishes. But I originally was planning on being an optometrist, so I had to switch careers. Uh,
Oh,
Therefore, it's been a wild ride, and I have been all over the world doing some cool fishery stuff in pursuit of this passion.
that's awesome. And that's a great start. We have so much perfect like raw material to work from a narrative like that. I love it. I love it. So first narrative concept we're going to be talking about is plants and payoff. That's the idea that you don't want anything to be paid off in the but and the therefore unless it was first planted in the and. So it's like a seed that we want to plant early on and then kind of like show how that seed grows and develops and changes like over the course of the narrative. So I really like how you started it. Like, yeah, I was an outdoor kid, loving life. But there's this other thing, the optometry thing that appeared out of nowhere in the butt. And I want to try to like plant that. Yeah, you already see. I want to plant that a little bit earlier. Yep. I had this great career of optometry planned. So this is where I kind of want you to like go back to your past self and project into the future how good you think things were going to be if you followed that career path. So if you became an optometrist, how great would things be for you?
Do I have to answer that in the ABT format?
Just answer to me right now. Like how good would things have been if you had been an optometrist? Like from where you were standing back then.
It wouldn't have been great at all because I wouldn't have been following my passion.
Oh, we're going to save that for the butt. We're going to save that for the butt. So for the and, why optometry? Was it what was the benefits of that? Was it a stable career, steady income, like a safe life?
I just, as the kid that grew up in a more rural area, I didn't know the breadth of the careers I could have in biology. So I thought optometrist because I had a couple of eye surgeries when I was a kid. It seemed like a good thing to do because being an astronaut didn't seem as likely.
Well, that's interesting that you were inspired by someone else to like become an optometrist. So you're this rural outdoor kid, and because of like several experiences you had with optometrists, you were kind of inspired to like give that a try as a career path. Yeah. But go ahead. What would the but here be?
But when I took a field course in Jamaica, that changed my trajectory to study fishes, and I didn't look back at that point. It went all fishy from there. Yeah,
tying into that like younger childhood passion that I had to be like an outdoors person.
Yes.
Therefore, that's the career path you've taken. Great. Yeah, there we go. The basics of narrative structure right there. We try to start off with just an ordinary world, just a baseline of who the character is, what their position is. So we met a young you and your like outdoorsiness. Then we look at what their kind of future goal is, what they want to like have happen in the future. I want to follow this career as an optometrist. I think it would be the best thing for me. But then the complication happens. Therefore, here's the consequences of that. Here's how I have to go forward. Great warm up, Karen. All right, now let's jump into the meat and potatoes for today. Cool.
Sounds good.
All right, so here we go. Actually, let's get the both of us on here. Perfect. I love it when technology works. It's so cool. All right, let's start with the typical way we normally start these ABT builds. I'm going to have you read your ABT, and then we will dive right in.
All right. Suckers are the most abundant group of migratory fishes in the Great Lakes, and they make mighty migrations into tributaries in the spring to spawn. But we don't know where they spend their time outside of spawning season. Therefore, we are tagging and tracking individuals to answer that question.
Great. So the first thing I want to talk about is narrative contrast. That's where we try to make sure each part of your narrative has a very specific feeling and function to it. We want each part of your narrative to be accomplishing a different goal. So let's just start there. So brief little mini lecture. A good way that I like to do that is through what we call in the class the Matthew template. Now, this is a template that, yes, I did come up with. I pitched the idea to a couple colleagues, and they're like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's call it the Matthew template. So now I'm just kind of stuck with the name. So I did not come up with the name. The Matthew template is heaven. I'm sorry, I already messed it up. I messed up my own template. The Matthew template is earth and heaven, but hell, therefore action. So let me go through these real quick. The earth, that's just like Karen's little intro story she told us earlier. That's just meeting who the starting characters are, finding out what their starting position is. It's very neutral, not very like emotionally charged or anything like that. Heaven is where you project into the future and think, okay, so if everything went to plan like I want it to, how good would things be? This is where you actually have to envision and articulate what exactly is it that you want to accomplish. How much more is the world going to be improved if we get the results that we're going after? But hell. But we're not at that perfect heaven right now. We're in this current hell scenario where things aren't going to plan. Therefore, we need to take action. We need to do this journey to get us out of hell and back to that heaven we initially envisioned. So that's what I'm going to try to start like molding this into, a basic earth and heaven, but hell, therefore action template. So my first question to you, Karen, is I want to know what is the journey for this narrative. What is the point A to point B you're taking them on? Now, the point A is kind of the world as is, and the point B is the world that you want to have happen. So what is the point A to point B here, according to the narrative you have written? And anyone in chat, feel free to like jump in with your guesses as well. You might think of a better option than we do.
So the point A is just making sure that people know that suckers are this most abundant group of migratory fishes in the Great Lakes, and that they show up in creeks and rivers to spawn.
Okay.
And so that's something that's fairly obvious that people can see because they come into these nearshore areas, but outside of that time, we don't know where they are.
I think you just hit on it right there. So I want you to take that and see if you can condense it down. This is our first little exercise we do in a lot of our ABT builds like this, a condensing exercise. So I want you to say this is a journey of, and then only add 3 additional words.
Oh, man.
I know. And anyone in chat, feel free to take a crack at that as well.
I can't see the chat. Should I be able to see the chat?
If you open Twitch up in another tab, you can. It's pretty. There hasn't been anything so far.
So I can.
I'm trying to poke them into action. Yeah. Come on, chat. Come on.
Start with. Do I start with this is the journey of suckers?
This is a journey of, and then add 3 additional words. And for journey, we want there to be some kind of action implied in this. Like something happens that takes us from point A to point B. And I see it here in your ABT.
So suckers
and I see it
from a mystery place into creeks, but we don't know where they are before they came into the creek.
I will condense that even more. Let's see. Therefore, we are. This is a journey of tracking suckers. So point A, we are not tracking suckers, and everything that's.
Better at this than I am.
Well, I have been doing this nonstop for 4 years, so that might have something to do with it.
Yeah, this is good. I like it.
So point A, we are not tracking suckers, and point B, we are now tracking suckers. In this better, more perfect world that you're taking us to, this is a world where we are tracking suckers. So the problem here is, this one's pretty obvious. The problem is we are not tracking suckers. That's the very specific problem. So my next question is, why? Why is that a problem that we're not tracking suckers? What would we gain from tracking suckers?
We know so little about this most abundant group of migratory fishes in the Great Lakes. So learning this aspect of their life history would help us conserve them a lot better. Conservation
There it is. Then we could conserve them so much easier and efficiently. Is this accurate? Okay, gotcha. If we knew more about this abundant group of fishes, such as where they spend their time, let's get specific here, spend their time outside of spawning season, then we could conserve them so much more easily and efficiently.
Yep.
Gotcha. Now here's the interesting part, especially I want to point this out for chat. I don't think there's anything in your original ABT about conserving them and that being easier by like understanding like how you're tracking them. I see this probably for 95% or greater science ABTs. And this is kind of a downstream effect of, so remember that inner circle, outer circle diagram I showed earlier? This is an effect of you and scientists being in the inner circle 90 to 95% of the time and just hearing inner circle speech all the time and only having to deal with the inner circle. And in your inner circle, you know intrinsically, you know to a deep level why it's important to track suckers. You absolutely know. It's kind of like baked into you and everyone in your inner circle group. There's this dangerous expression, it goes without saying, that I think is like kind of the inner circle mindset. Well, it goes without saying what we would get by like being able to track them better. It goes without saying. We don't need to explicitly state that for everyone. That is absolutely true for your inner circle, but for your outer circle, you do have to explicitly state that. Now, you mentioned that some of your audience includes anglers, commercial fishermen, those who are interested in the outdoors. Are they on this topic of like what the benefits would be? Would you consider them inner circle or outer circle?
They're probably a bit of both.
Bit of both.
Because,
okay.
In this venue, they often have other scientists that have tagged and tracked other species. So some will have maybe come and heard some of the bass tagging and tracking, but it would be not good to assume that they know it.
Let's be prudent here. Yeah, let's make sure let's just assume. And you know, even sometimes if it's a mix like that, you could even say like at the beginning, and I know a lot of you know this, that like tacking and tragging has all these benefits. Like, but I just want to like get everyone up to speed just to make sure. So you could even call it out if you think, what's that? Yeah.
I have a question too.
Sure.
I'm curious if you can scroll back up to the narrative. Is it in the therefore part that we add, therefore we are tagging and tracking individuals to answer that question so we can contribute to conservation and management? Or where does that start to fall? In that extra why we need to do this.
We want to plant that as soon as we possibly can. I'm talking about in the heaven. So the thing for narratives, and so here's the difference between scientific thinking and narrative thinking. Scientific thinking is you present a bunch of a statement of facts, and at the very end, you give the conclusion at the end. For narrative thinking, you give the conclusion at the beginning, and then you show like what problems that conclusion is going to face, and you evolve that conclusion over time. So I want to put this, let's start on the rewrite here. I want to put this conclusion at the very beginning. So let's start off with your Earth. I think this is a great Earth statement, just kind of getting us all up to speed. Suckers are the most abundant group of migratory fishes in the Great Lakes, and they make mighty migrations into tributaries in the spring to spawn. Perfect Earth, perfect starting place. Now, if we were to add some heaven here, we would say, and if we knew more about this abundant group of fish, such as where they spend their time outside of spawning season, then we could conserve them so much easier and efficiently. We could make so many great strides. So this is great. You have evidence of like previous efforts like this, like actually helping?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That's so great. So you could do this actually maybe as part of your like presentation, you could say, and we know doing this kind of thing works at this point. At this point in your like presentation, we know this. We know this kind of thing works. We know that when we've done these efforts in the past, we've seen these kind of results. We've seen species make rebounds. It's helped in conservation efforts. Blah 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 blah. Just that this is where you can throw a little bit of evidence to them to back up their claim as to how much better this potential future heaven would be if everything went to plan. But this is not happening right now because we don't know. We don't know where they spend their time outside of spawning season due to a lack of past, what do we say, tracking efforts, something like that.
Yep.
Yep. And keep in mind, this is all kind of dirty first draft rewrite kind of thing. So feel free to clean this up and do a little wordsmithing on it later to make it a little bit more polished. But I'm just trying to get the major beats right now. So, and this is something that I've noticed a lot of scientists have a lot of everyone has a hard time getting their head around with. We're being a little repetitive here, and we're doing that on purpose. We're being repetitive in that we're introducing the idea of spending their time outside of spawning season. Then we're saying we don't know about that. We don't know where they spend their time. We're doing this because we're assuming the audience's outer circle. This is a brand new concept, and we want to keep reinforcing the concept over and over again. We're taking this initial concept, introducing it early, evolving it over time so they can see what it's up against, and then giving them the action, the solution at the very end. Therefore, to fix this and find out more about, let's see, where this species spends their time outside spawning season, we are tagging and tracking individuals to answer that question. You had basically all the raw material here. It was just a little bit of filling in the details and getting really, really clear on the heaven. Is that all making sense what I did?
Absolutely. I think sometimes too, when I get into presenting that initial narrative, like there's so many different ways that can kind of tackle it, because I could actually start too with the fact that, suckers are native non-game fish.
Ooh.
And
the question is always, does it serve the narrative? Does it serve this narrative? And let's lean into a little bit more of the goal of what we're trying to get out of this narrative. Let's jump back to the audience, and this might give us a rewrite actually. So for this narrative, so we know who your audience is: anglers, commercial fishermen, those interested in the outdoors. Is the purpose of this narrative just to inform them, or do you want them to take some form of action?
I mean, I want them overall after this presentation to walk away with more of an interest in suckers. Essentially, we've been we've put a lot of effort into unraveling the mysteries of the sport fish in the Great Lakes. So we've done all the tagging and tracking has emphasized those sport fishes. And we have not done the same amount of investigating into the non-game fish. So this is where the sucker category falls in. So we're like way behind on answering questions about those fishes.
Interesting. Okay. So
So
this might change
there's
our
like a
heaven a little
few
bit.
different ways, and this is like what where's the best like get you kind of thing.
Right, right. And that's where I have just the perfect goofy stupid diagram for this. Let me find it. There's my perfect stupid goofy diagram. All right. So this is kind of like the audience buy-in diagram. We're trying to find in the heaven where what you're doing, this like investigation of suckerfish, intersects with what it is your audience really cares about, what they value. So just off the top of your head, so what does your audience value that you're serving, that you're addressing by this investigation of suckerfish? What are they getting out of it specifically?
They are getting out of it like people that are coming care about the Great Lakes and right where they live. Whether the folks fish or not, they know that where they live is a hot spot for outdoors activity. They're learning more about their environment. If they care about fish, they'll be interested in hearing about fish, I think.
Gotcha. So they care about the Great Lakes. They care about like and by care about the Great Lakes, let's be even more specific there. Do they care about the health of the Great Lakes?
Yep, health of the Great Lakes, since it's the drinking water for a lot of for Door County, it's a big tourism thing. There's lots of fishing tournaments that go on. People usually like to get plugged into what's happening with the fish.
Gotcha. So they care about the environmental health of the Great Lakes, about tourism, about fishing. Are tracking these suckers tying into any of this?
Yeah, because it gives us an idea of, where are they hanging out? Are they potentially moving nutrients? That is something that could be helpful for indicating and linking up to how the ecosystem is functioning.
Great. This is what I'm trying to push you toward, like specifically what this speaks to about the audience's values. So if this audience of anglers, commercial fishermen, those interested in the outdoors, yep, I do believe they'd probably be interested in environmental health. And if what you're doing really does link up to that, then I say shine a spotlight on it.
Okay. It's a little bit more of a bigger story than just like how one individual moves, but seeing the trends of the larger number that are tagged, how they behave. I think that a lot of the folks that show up are really interested in the technology that we use, that we can tag and track fish and tell stories about how there's some fish are more homebodies and others are more cosmopolitan, and kind of make links between fish behavior and human behavior. So I think this is, there's so many things I think that the audience could kind of relate to, making this more complicated.
Making this more complicated. Well, I'm trying to aim as broad as possible, but so you're probably going to devote a certain amount of time in your talk to like talking about the heaven, the benefits. I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't like list a few of those. Like, here's all the benefits if we knew. Let's go back to the heaven. If we knew more about this abundant group of fish, such as where they spend their time outside of spawning season. All right, so there's probably a bullet list of like different things we can get out of this. Let's see, indicating linking up to how the overall is functioning. Yeah, help to see the larger trends. Now, those who have the interest in the tech. I'm not seeing how that fits into this problem solution. Oh, actually, no. I am. It wouldn't be in the earth or heaven or hell. It would be in the action. If you give us a very compelling narrative, a very compelling heaven of how good things could be, and give us a good problem of here's what's standing in our way, we will actually give you longer to go into details about what your solution is, about like how to fix the problem. So if you want to like go into more details about the tech, I would say for your presentation, save it for the therefore.
Okay. I could also see like there are many species of migratory fish in the Great Lakes,
Mhm.
and they all contribute to a healthy ecosystem. But we're missing data on a key group of species that are the suckers. Therefore, we're tagging and tracking suckers to fill that data gap. Something better than that. But it could introduce things from like the bigger picture of, you know, all
Yes.
the fish that are in the Great Lakes and where and they can how they behave contributes to a healthy ecosystem, or how they all work together.
Right.
But we're missing
It's the importance, and if we had a complete picture of how this
Yeah.
worked, which includes, I like that. And if we had, this is turning into a mess, but I don't care. If we had a complete picture of the overall ecosystem, which would include, let's see, migrations of suckers, then that would get us
Yep.
all of these things.
Yes, totally.
Gotcha.
So that might be a better way of getting everybody who's not just already sucker fans, but they
Right.
just
And you kind of instinctively went to like another great narrative pattern, which I thought was fantastic. You beat me to the punch there. There's this pattern in narrative that basically goes general and specific,
Oh, I like that.
but general because specific, therefore general by specific. So you start at this really general Earth level, just giving us the broad landscape of everything. Then you can dive into a little bit more detail once we kind of like are oriented. That's the purpose of the general. Basic orientation as to the topic, as to the subject matter, so that we know what it is that you're talking about at a very general level. That's about all the outer circle can handle it for at first, because they are outer circle. They don't really understand the specific. So you go from general to specific. You go from simplicity and then deeper and deeper complexity throughout the entire narrative. Simplicity, and then eventually more and more and more to complexity by the very end. That is the general. Another good pattern of narrative. So yay, good job beating me to the punch there. Well done.
Oh, that's perfect, because the general and specific, but general because specific, therefore general by specific aspect wasn't something I had learned about before.
Because it's new. It's very
Yeah.
new. It's amazing
presses.
it's amazing what patterns emerge after doing roughly 1,000 of these.
There you go.
That you didn't have after you only did 300 of them. It's
No,
amazing.
this is helpful too, because I think that actually might be more effective what I've just worked towards for that audience. So everybody's included
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah.
It's just we're talking about fish without getting into the specific species.
Exactly.
Because yeah. Yay.
Brilliant. Let's see if there's anything. Oh yeah. So I definitely want to do this before I let you go. So are you familiar with the Dobzhansky template? Has that ever?
Yes, but rusty on that. I would fail a test right now if I had to answer what it was.
No
I
problem.
have done it before.
So the Dobzhansky template, all of this that we're working on up here, this is basically like the plot, like the main plot points of your narrative. The Dobzhansky is more the one unifying theme. It's the kind of one thing you can keep going back to again and again to tying your entire narrative together. The template is named after famous biologist Theodosius Dobzhansky, who once famously said, nothing in nature makes sense. Nothing in biology makes sense except in the light of evolution. Once you look at all life on the planet through the lens of evolution, suddenly everything comes together. So nothing in blank, I don't have to spell out blank, Matthew, makes sense except in the light of blank. So nothing, I think I know what the second blank is. Nothing in, oh, we had it in one of the if-thens. Actually, no. Maybe the first blank is nothing in getting a view of the entire ecosystem makes sense except in the light of what? And I'm not convinced I have this first one right either. Like, makes sense in the light, except in the light of, like, tracking key species. Let's try a few of these.
Nothing in the light of a healthy fishery
Ooh,
makes sense except in the light of understanding all of the species.
makes sense except in the light of understanding all of the species. In order to make sure this fishery is healthy, what we're doing is at optimal health, we have to understand all the species. If we don't understand all the species, we can't really have a healthy fishery. Is that right?
It's exactly it.
All right, cool. I think that's about all we need to get you going today. So you're gonna have some cleanup to do. I'll go ahead and like send this Word document to you. But
This is super helpful.
Good. What I would like to see from like the end presentation is the first few, like you said, starting out with like the broad general. Here's what's important to all of us, and it's really important to keep all this healthy. We need to like understand all these different things, especially, and included in that is like the migrations of suckers. Here's what we could get out of that. We could conserve them so much more easily and efficiently. It would help us like get a broader picture of how the overall ecosystem is functioning. We would get all these benefits, but we don't have that. We can get even more general, but we don't have that. We are missing data on this group. We do not have all these things that we need to have. Therefore, we are not in the heaven we pictured. We're in more of a hell state. Therefore, to fix this, we're going to go find out more about the species, how the species spends their time outside spawning season, and we are going to tag and track the individuals to answer this question. And this is where, for your tech enthusiast, you can go into all the details about how you're doing that, and they will love it and eat up every moment. Any questions, Karen?
No, I don't think so, but I know the presentation's gonna be available to a Zoom audience in addition to in person. So I'll be able to send you a link for that.
Yes, please.
Watch me. how I execute the initial ABT and wrap it into a 40-minute talk and then Q&A.
That's always the trick. So for those in the audience who are like, so what's the value in what we just did? This is kind of like the entirety of Karen's thoughts and knowledge about this subject matter condensed down about as far as we can do it. This, if it works right, should act as like a map, as like a model and a compass for like the longer presentation when she starts decompressing it. It's a map for like what she can do in each part of the presentation, what key points she should be focusing on, and how she can communicate those as clearly as she possibly can, while keeping in mind that the outer circle audience is going to need things spelled out to them, because some things do not go without saying, especially for outer circle audiences. Karen, thank you so much for being my first guest. This was really great and really fun. Like I
It
couldn't.
was a lot of fun for me too.
I gotta send like a big thank you note to Julie Clausen for setting this up. She picked a good one. She picked a good one here.
Thank you. We love Julie.
We love Julie. Awesome. Yep. And send me that Zoom link and I'll be happy to watch it. That'd be great.
Well, I look forward to getting your notes. I took the one about the that general and specific, but now it's all in your Word document.
Yep,
so
it's all
it'll
here.
be helpful.
Yep, that'll just be $5,000. No.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
You can come and visit us at Shedd and see my nice sucker art in person.
Awesome. We'll do. All right, cool. Yeah, next time I'm in Chicago. Great.
Sounds good. And we'll have to talk more about a film about fisheries biologists too.
Yes. I want to hear all of the drama that goes on behind the scenes. I can't wait to write the treatment on that.
It's all the stuff that happens in the field and the adventure of field season and trying to work with fish migrations when they don't have like a set clock of when they show up. That's the drama.
So there
That's
is
excitement.
honestly built-in drama to this. Like, have you pitched this to like any like reality show producers or anything like that?
No, we're doing it right now. I'm pitching it to you.
So it's up to me to make this happen. Okay,
I
great.
don't know a lot of filmmakers.
I'm getting my producer credit, everybody. It's happening.
I love it.
Awesome. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for stopping by, Karen. I'm gonna keep talking to chat a little bit, and yeah, great first guest.
Thanks so much.
All right.
Take care.
Bye, Karen.
Bye.